Hey, Victor, how you doing? It's Charles and Gerald.
Good. How are you?
Good. Gerald didn't have the ability to call you, so he asked me if I would call you through Skype and connect you two together. So.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. Pleased to meet you, Vic. Charlie had mentioned that you wanted to talk to Frank and I.
Well, I was curious to meet up with you. Whereabouts are you in Ontario? Where are you?
Oh, I'm in Alberta.
Oh, you are Alberta. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you're in Ontario. Where that
And Frank is in Australia, and I can never remember which city he's in. I think it's Sydney. I always say it's Melbourne, but I think it's Sydney he's in. Yeah. Anyway,
somewhere on the globe.
Same time zone anyway, down under.
Right. So you're involved in that one heaven thing, right?
Well, yes, quite a few people involved in it. Frank and I, originally our conversations were about ancient history, and he'd been working on this Euclidean model for a long time in his life, and anyway, we got into discussing various elements, and actually the point he'd studied a lot of very ancient law and a lot of religious law, and I had studied stuff that was more contemporary, and when we were first discussing legal things, he was still he didn't really know about the straw man type of stuff, And anyway, he's got an unbelievable learning curve, and he is right up to speed on the way the law things works. And because of his his study of ecclesiastical law, as well as other ancient law, that the things dovetail together. It's kind of like, you're studying one thing, Charlie's studying another, and I'm studying another. When we start talking together, we start putting together a bigger picture, Charlie?
Yeah.
Frank is calling me right now. Would you add him to your conversation?
Will do.
Okay.
Continue talking.
Yes. And the insights of how the system works have been coming in at an unbelievable pace in the last 3 weeks or so.
Yeah, I think that's going to grow exponentially as more of us wake up and start asking questions. The answer's coming.
Well, yes. Like you had dug into the birth certificate aspect.
I sure have.
There's about five more different things to the birth certificate that we've discovered. You see, the whole thing is about jurisdiction, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And so, in order to counter some jurisdiction over top of us, we have to figure out who's got the jurisdiction and how they got it, right?
Correct.
And so there's a bunch of different levels to this, and you know how law works. They start with one act or law, and then it evolves into another one and another one and another one. Yeah. And so there's a progression. Frank, Victor Beck from Canada wanted to talk to us, and Charlie has patched us together on a phone call. Vic is on the line in Ontario.
Very cool, Frank.
And I was just explaining, things about jurisdiction, and that, in the last 3 weeks or so, a lot more insights have been coming in as to how the system gets their jurisdiction over us and how it works.
Yes.
And some of it we haven't got into discussing with the whole group because it's really quite new. But in any event, the system has jurisdiction over us, and they do have a lineage of jurisdiction going back a long time. So they do have jurisdiction. We have to zero in on it, and we have to counter it. So that's what we're trying to do with a few different documents right now. And Frank is working on some the Canon Law of one heaven, which is a very important part of it. And the other thing that is come to the top of our pile recently, Vic, do you remember what color summonses used to be?
Nope, but they're yellow right now.
They're yellow, eh? Interesting. Well, they always used to be blue, and the Sunday laws were called blue laws. And anyway, blue is an ecclesiastical color. And that's why you see blue on all the police forces and whatever. Very interesting to note that they're coming on yellow paper now, and that's another color that we would expect. But maybe Frank, you could explain to Vic a little bit more of what we're doing, or maybe you have some direct question you wanted to ask Vic. Might be better.
Yeah, I mean, Vic, well, do you want an update from what Gerald's saying first, or do you want to get straight into questions you've got or comments? How'd you like to go?
Are you talking to me, Vic?
Yeah. Do you want me to give some background as to adding to what Gerald said, or do you want to get straight into some questions? What would suit you?
Maybe, yeah, sure. Maybe get into a little bit more where he's coming from. I did read your quite a bit of your website, although there's a lot more to go.
The most difficult thing to anybody that comes to it, first off, more so if they're less well-read, slightly less so if they're more well-read, and that is that the exact underlying motive for these things is extremely difficult. And there's a reason for that. There's two reasons for that. One is one of the things I used to have as a kid was I was fascinated in war and strategy. And I realized as I got older that it held me in good stead. And one of the lessons I learned about any kind of war, and we are, as you know, Vic, well and truly in a war and have been for a long time, a spiritual war, a war of morals, and then ultimately a physical flesh war between those that wish to keep us as slaves and the few that wish to change that. And that is that whenever you fight something and you make it a cohesive opposite to yourself, the more that you attack it, the more that you ultimately potentially strengthen it. I mean, this is the fallacy of anyone that's attempted in history to cause a genocide or some kind of elimination, is that from what I've read, almost no attempt of that has ever succeeded. If anything, it has been the catalyst for a much stronger opposition. The only strategy that seemed to have worked, and worked an absolute treat in wiping things from the face of the earth, is consumption. That is, outpositioning and consuming the enemy by establishing a position where, rather than opposing them, you honour them and then consume them as a sub branch of a greater thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, that's the only strategy that I have seen in war or society or any form of battle of ideas that has ever worked. And it is the hallmark of the Jesuits and the hallmark of the Roman cult. And certainly in the last 300 years, they've been exceptionally successful, even with quite poorly executed and poorly devised strategies. They've been extremely, extremely successful. So that's the heart and purpose of what we're doing here. It is a consumption and a correction, as opposed to a traditional, good versus evil, team one versus team two type thing. But now we're at a point where we've realized that the heart of the system that supports, protects, nurtures the bar societies around the world that have locked the courts into their own members is canon law. In fact, I said to Gerald, when you hear the word rule of law, and I'm sure we talk about rule of law all the time, what we unwittingly do when we say rule of law, rule, measure, bar, are all different words for canon. A canon is an ancient measure, an ancient rule, an ancient bar, yeah, an ancient reed.
Yes.
That ancient measure of a carpenter. So what they've done is that they've effectively monopolized the courts because they've monopolized the law. Canon law, rule of law, is their most precious and strongest claim of jurisdiction, because it's through those 1,400, 1,500 canons that they establish their claim of superior jurisdiction over all of us. And until we, and we can't, and this is the thing, I've been looking up until now on how to abrogate that. There is no way to abrogate canon law other than to consume their system and demonstrate its deficiency and establish through canon law and effectively abrogate that, what they've done then, to simply false claims. Now, I've sent to Charlie and I've sent to Gerald, and if I've got your email, I'll send you an update of how this is going. It's going extremely well. And we're in a position by next week to publish something in the order of about 6,000 canons, which finally and forever will eliminate the position of the Roman cult, the Moloch worshipping Talmud rabbi, the Venetian noble classes, the Knights of Malta, European nobility, from their perches of being the controllers of us allegedly being slaves. All right, we're very close. And with that, and I think a remarkable thing is, I think, going to take place. We've learned a huge amount in terms of, in a very short time, in terms of how their system controls standing, how they hide the overwhelming ecclesiastical nature of their courts. But now, what we find and what I found is the entire court system, every member is dedicated towards honouring rule of law, canon law. So,
I'll vote for that.
Yeah. So what we're going to be able to do, in fact, Charlie has just sent me your email, so I'm going to send you these. So when we present canon law to them, for the first time ever, we are going to be able to say to the Bar Society, honour your code, honour your pledge, honour your oath, and obey canon law. Here are the canon laws that you are disobeying. Now that is going to shock them to their bone, because they have absolutely no response. It is their weakest flank. It is absolutely the weakest flank. Once we establish canon law as it should be, we actually finally and forever destroy their jurisdictional claims. Right. But until we do that, their jurisdictional claims are watertight and are virtually impossible to penetrate.
One of the things that we've been working on is a thing called a notice of correction of record. And some of the insights that I've gotten lately have been assisted or given directly by a fellow in England that I've been talking to. And just today he pointed me to a couple of things that are up on UK legal websites where it says, for instance, that if a man or woman stands in front of a judge and proves that they're a living flesh, he has to offer them remedy. Have you ever heard of the Sestikevi Act from 1666?
Can't say I have.
Yeah. Well, what it did was declare everyone dead if they haven't been heard from in 7 years. So from the birth certificate up to 7 years, if they haven't heard from you, they consider you dead, and they handle you as a trust from that point on. So when you tell the judge where you tell them in the system that you're alive, now they have to start dealing with you from a different angle. But this is just one small aspect of what needs to be covered in letting them know the jig is up. Eh?
Another thing we found was that you know when judges run off to their chambers, there's been a bit of a feeling for a while that somehow denotes that you're on victory. We discovered actually that when a judge first enters a chamber, he really is representing himself, and really all the laws of the society we think are by the Parliament, but really they're all bylaws of the Bar Society. So in that first instance, when you establish your standing, unless the judge provides remedy, he is in dishonour. Yeah.
Yep.
So if a judge doesn't want to provide remedy, what he can do is he can leave the court, which is what we see when they run out. But when he returns, he doesn't return to a form of court based on the rules of the Bar Society. He returns now, changing the form of the court without us seeing anything physically change, into full Admiralty Court. Now, unless you then re-establish your standing again, then it's as if you no longer have any standing, because it's a brand new court. Yeah?
Gotcha. Yep, gotcha.
Now, it also that what you ask for has to change as well, because if you ask for the wrong thing, they won't give it to you. So under the Bar Society, in the first form, it's remedy. But under the second form, because it's gone to pure Admiralty, you really have only two choices. If you don't establish standing, they will treat you as salvage under the laws of Oleron, which is the base laws, and they're all fictional, but under the claimed laws that the Roman cult and the Venetians use for commerce. So that salvage, you're dead, right? You're just a four-poster bed. If you re-establish your standing, which you must do when the judge returns, what you ask for is cure and maintenance, not remedy. Because cure and maintenance is the form of remedy. Under Admiralty law, the laws of Oleron is the base for it all. So it's always good to get back to the source document. And under that, what it says is salvage is salvage. Okay, there is no life salvage in maritime law. So if you're dead, you're going to be salvaged and basically put into some holding building, right? That's why they'll put you in prison. You're just a bit of cargo going to a warehouse. Yep. But if you establish yourself as living, then under the laws of Oleron, that means you're a sailor, okay, on a ship of state, and they must provide you cure. It's actually not just cure, but maximum cure and maintenance until your health is restored. So it actually is a stronger remedy than if the judge had never run out and returned. But what the judge is trying to do is basically re-establish superior jurisdiction by tricking the defendant into not re-establishing their standing. Yes?
Yep. And
sadly, I feel that this happens, I think, almost 90% of the time. That a man or woman learns the art of establishing their standing. Judges get wind of it. They're more often than not running from the chamber. The truth movement are told that is a good sign. So it's actually being misinterpreted.
Right.
But when they come back, what they're doing is they've re-established their honour. It's a totally different court.
Oh, yeah.
It's now purely Admiralty court. And unless you re-establish standing and ask for the correct remedy for Admiralty law, they will not give it to you. And they can do it once more, Vic.
Yep.
If you're in a federal court, they can leave again for the third and final time. And if they leave again and they return, they come back as a high priest of the religion of Baal and under the protection of the ecclesiastical laws of Canon Law, where they are treated as an ordinary. So they're basically sitting there as a representative of the Curia. It's as if you're in front of the Pope. Yeah?
Right.
Now, this is rarely done because a mistake at this level is a very serious error on their part, and if they do an error of dishonour at this third level, they lose being a judge forever. Yeah?
Is that right?
But it's the last it's the last chance for them to basically get one over you. And it's only at that point that the claim of sovereignty of a living flesh being between oneself and God can be used. At no other point does it have any remedy. So really what's happened with sovereignty is, I believe sovereignty is, because of that, is a genuine remedy, but only in the very, very rarest occurrences.
Right.
But other than that, it's turned out to be a terrible, terrible distraction for people.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And people believe that when a judge runs out of the courtroom, and they think it's funny.
And I think that is part of the misinformation that has been presented, sadly, because the people think of it in terms of battle. Really, what they're watching is a judge leaving to re-establish their honour because they don't wish to offer remedy, returning into a brand new court. Well, understanding what they're doing exactly, and in fact, I'll tell you where we found validation for this. The word bar in bar association has been deliberately, firstly, it comes from 1823, so it's relatively recent, but its history has been clouded from a name that is supposed to have been a wash-up of the temple bar and tradition. It actually turns out to be one of the most powerful magic words available to these magicians that curse. I mean, when they sentence you, they're issuing a curse. They're issuing a spell. Yeah? What we've failed to realize is that we're dealing with people who, for a living, perform magic. And we've forgotten that everything about them is about staying in honour with their magic. If they lose their power of magic, they can't issue orders. That's why if they're in dishonour, a judge has to step down because their orders have no magical power under their system. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's actually the reason. And the proof is in the name of these societies. The word bar is a magic word in that what you see is one word, but really what you should be seeing is bar, bar 3 times. That's what the word actually means. Bar, 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 bar. That's what bar is. And bar, bar means father in Hebrew, and it means priest in Hebrew.
That's interesting.
And it particularly means a Baal priest. A Baal.
That's what it means, a Baal priest. Now,
a Baal or Baal?
Well, Baal. Baal is 2 words. Bar, which is Lord, and then El. And the L is abbreviated. So Baal with the apostrophe means Lord God. Yeah?
Right.
So Bar, just on its own, means Lord. So what you have is the word Bar also means son of, as you've probably seen in Hebrew, like Simon Bar Jonah, Simon, son of Jonah. Yeah? But it also means practitioner of. So what you have is Bar Bar, practitioner of Bar. Bar Bar, practitioner of, abbreviated B-A-R, B, Baal, A, by, R, Romanum. So practitioner of Baal through Rome. Yeah? Bar, another word for canon, rule, standard. Okay? Practitioner of Bar, practitioner of canon law. Yeah?
Yes.
They tell you.
Yeah, one other use of bar is the beginning of barbarians, which comes from the Greek, and it means that the people spoke in the manner that they spoke. It was not understandable, just like legalese. So that's where the word barbarian came from. And, of course, it's part of bar, where they speak legalese, where only they can understand the words and we can't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So what we see in the word itself is a supremely powerful magic word that they are using to present themselves. And so they're really telling people that they are religious. The canon law tells that all courts are considered temples. That's what the canon law is doing, is giving validation to the fact that the courts are called oratories, and it's in canon law, and priests, judges of priests called ordinaries. But what this is doing is validating what we're witnessing, that the judge leaving and returning is really changing the form of the court to more senior, more powerful law. It's showing that a judge is holding levels of power. It's showing that a judge is absolutely dripping in being a priest, a Baal priest, and that the authority of the judge and the ability to sentence is purely an ecclesiastical and sacramental power. It has nothing to do with adjudication or agreement. Their ability to judge and sentence is purely by remaining in honour of their ecclesiastical powers. So when you present an ecclesiastical notice of dishonour that gives notice of dishonour by their rules, a judge loses their power. And it turns out that all this argument about liens and things that people have had for years, that, if you get a lien on a judge, the judge has to leave. The lien means nothing. The lien is irrelevant. What's happening is when someone perfects that notice of protest and dishonour to the point that it has some ecclesiastical power, the judge is screwed. Their power, it turns out, is magic. Their power is, if I can't curse you, then I can't do my job. And that's what a judge is supposed to do, is to issue judgments, and their judgments are curses. The curse establishes a debt. The debt is the monetization. That's what they do. Have you ever heard the story in the New Testament about Jesus removing 100 demons and then putting them into pigs and they jump off a cliff?
That's not in my Bible.
Okay, well, there's a story, and it might only be in the Vulgate, the Roman cult's Vulgate, but it's a story of Jesus banishing 100 demons from a fellow and then putting them into the pigs, and the pigs jump off the cliff. But the point of the story is it demonstrates the rebound of magic in terms of curses. So what it's implying is that Jesus cursed the demons. The demons then left the body, and then Jesus got the demons into the pigs so that effectively the rebound wouldn't occur. There's actually a quote, judge not lest ye be judged. Yes?
Yep.
That should actually be curse not lest ye be cursed. Okay? The Egyptians knew, and these people are magicians. Remember, they're sorcerers. They're into magic. The Egyptians knew that the most powerful spell is a curse spell. But the downside of a curse spell is when it matures, it returns with interest. Yeah?
Right.
So what they did was that they formed... Have you seen the mummification of animals?
Yep.
Now, we've totally misunderstood why they went to the extent of mummifying animals. But what the Egyptians worked out is they could protect a king from the afterlife of anyone putting curses by basically putting in substitutes and blessing those substitutes so that any curses would go to the substitute. It's a bit like, modern fighter planes will let off flares.
Yes.
The missile will think the flare is the plane, right? Will think the missile is the curse coming back, right?
Yep.
If you don't have a flare, what's going to happen to the plane?
It's going to get nailed.
That's right. Well, that's exactly what happens with curses, right? Now, in voodoo, the voodoo priests put bugs and little animals, depending upon the seriousness of the curse, in jars. Have you ever seen I don't know if you've ever seen a documentary, but you ever see a voodoo priest's got prayer room, it's full of jars, right? And what they do is when they curse, they'll put the rebound of the curse what they'll do is they'll as they're doing the curse, they'll have the animal and the jar, and when they're finished, they'll put the jar away, so the jar becomes responsible, not the priest. Yeah?
Right. Interesting.
Now, the Roman cult with the Venetians under Medici came up with a different plan. They used money, debt, right?
Yes.
So money became the currency of curses, right?
Yes.
It meant that all the curses that they've done will never mature so long as the money system continues to exist, right?
Right.
And so long as the debt's never matured, they don't get in trouble.
No doubt this is, they've had the experience of doing this for a extremely long time in terms of time.
Well, the bastards have been getting away with it for 2,000 years, eh? But figuring out how exactly that they pull off their jurisdiction and get everybody to swallow it. It's just like money. Money only has a value if everybody believes it's valuable. If the whole world would only accept seashells as currency, then the currency would be seashells, right?
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
Somebody try to give me a piece of paper and say, "You nuts, I want seashells," you know? Nothing else is valuable. So it doesn't matter if it's gold. Gold is still an illusion. And of course, you heard about what the IMF did to the Reserve Bank of India about a year ago?
Nope.
They sold them 200 tons of tungsten with 4 microns of gold plating on it for full price. Now, if you read the incorporation documents of the IMF, you will find that they can't be sued by anybody or anything on the planet. So what recourse does the bank have? They got to fill up their drill holes and tell everybody it's gold.
Bunch of cheats, eh?
Well, it's like you said about the Monopoly game. You know, they own the board, they own all the pieces, they own the bank, and they make the rules, and they change the rules, and on top of it all, they cheat.
Yeah. These are rules for us, not for you, not for us.
Hey, Vic.
Yes.
One of the things that Frank was going to before he left was that when these judges come into court, because of that money being the curse, these judges will not come into the chambers with any money in their possession while they're there on the job.
Is that right?
Yeah.
They'd be coming in with their own curse, I guess, eh?
It's coming back to them.
Right.
Yeah, the other one on that, Vic, is if you read Catholic Canon Law, all the priests take a vow of poverty, eh?
Yes.
Okay, how come the cardinals are all billionaires? That doesn't
I've
sound
always
very...
wondered that.
You've always wondered that? They never touch the money. If you don't have any money in your pocket, you must be poor, right? That's their trick on the vow of poverty. They never touch it. It's never in their pocket, so therefore they're poor.
Yeah, I knew that they were doing for the money. They're not real religious guys, but I had no idea of the money being a curse from their perspective in that sense. It is a curse in anybody's hand for that matter.
Yeah, actually how that got developed was really understanding how bills of exchange work. They're really quite incredible.